Hello, everyone. It is question and answer day here at She Runs Strong podcast, powered by Coach Perry, the podcast that is there for all females over the age of 40 to help you run better and stronger. As always, I'm joined by Nikki Friedman. Nikki, welcome again. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm good, thanks. I'm excited to get going with this episode today. I've been out for an early morning run, so I've had a nice, easy 60 minutes and I'm feeling energized and ready to go. So it's all good. And how are you today?
I am good, thank you, Nikki. Today's rest day for me, so no activity today. Just some, I guess, brain activity, answering some of these questions. And so yeah, I enjoy my rest days just also because they're a good mental break from just being so structured with training all the time. So
Yeah, definitely.
I know lots of people don't enjoy their rest
No, I
days, but
don't. I don't
yeah, I
at
know.
all. No, no,
I was
no. I
gonna
just, I had a rest day on Monday and I was going bananas and it was a lovely day outside. And I was like, no, no,
say,
I don't
yeah,
enjoy it particularly, especially in
really,
the UK when it's a nice day.
that's
It just
exactly what I was
seems
gonna say.
criminal not to go out and do something active in a nice day. So
Yeah, we tend to take our nice days for granted here. They're a bit of a novelty. So
yeah,
yeah, so yeah. But let's get cracking, Nikki. Let's dive straight into it. Question and answers. You guys provide the questions. We get a lot of these questions from our forum on the Coach Perry platform. And of course, Nikki and I will do our best to provide you guys with some amazing answers and hopefully some valuable answers for you guys. So diving straight in, Nikki, the first question is from Carol. Carol is asking, should I be following my heart rate zones or my pace zones? She says that if she sticks to her pace zone, she finds that her heart rate is a little bit too high. What is your advice for Carol?
so we get this question quite a lot as well, don't we? And it's an interesting one. And I think so. Really, firstly, Carol, you need to take a look at how you're measuring your heart rate. Okay, so you need to. A lot of people very commonly just use their watch, or even there is a move to using an armband strap. But what we're looking for is a heart rate strap. Okay, something that goes round your body and monitors you in real time when you're out running. Okay. So that's the most important thing, is how accurately you measure your heart rate, because that is an internal measurement of how your body is responding. And that's important. And that can alter in many different ways, whether you've had a good night's sleep, a bit of stress at home, or anything. So that gives you a true representation of just how easy you're running that day. So if it is high and or higher than your pace zones are dictating, then there's probably something going on and you probably definitely need to slow down. Okay. And so that's your first thing. So check how you're measuring your heart rate. They should align with your pace zones, but if they're higher, then you need to bring them down. Okay. Um, you've got something to add to that, Shona?
Yeah, I think, Nikki, because I can just see everyone listening to this at home rolling their eyes saying, well, my device, whichever
No.
device it is it is accurate and I don't need a chest strap. And I think just want to reiterate that for what you're saying is that, it can look like those heart rate readings from a wrist base are accurate, but they're really, really not. I mean, it's just been proven in the scientific literature that a chest strap is far more accurate. And in particular, you guys, in the Northern Hemisphere now moving into autumn and winter, the colder it gets, the less accurate that is, because the blood is being shifted to all the internal organs to keep, to make sure that you're warm and keep that core temperature up, which means that it's not reading that measurement correctly. So yeah, perhaps just to reiterate that, guys, that reliability of the measurements is absolutely key. So if you're not getting a reliable measure, we can't then use that to say whether or not your pace is correct or your heart rate is correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just, I think too many people, and it's a sort of quite a novelty thing having your heart rate on your watch now. And there's so many metrics on your watch to follow, but the simple fact is it's quite far away from your heart, really,
Yes.
isn't it? So it's not going to measure your actual heart rate, heartbeat. So just bear that in mind when you're monitoring. And I think as well, some people, so as well, Carol, and just be sure in terms of your paces, if they're not matching up your heart rate and your pace zones and everything else is kind of good, like good night's sleep and you've not got much stress, maybe you want to check the plan that you're on as well and the pace zones. because maybe those pace zones are just where you want to be and not where you are now. And that's what your heart rate is showing, is that you're not quite ready for those pace zones and you just need to take it back a wee level.
Yeah, for sure. And then, Nikki, just to add to that, I think I quite like to use three metrics, when we're looking at our runs and how we measuring them essentially. And so here, like you said, you got heart rate, which is our internal measure. We've got pace, which is an external measure. And then that third one, which is often forgotten, is how you're feeling, that perceived exertion. And if you
Absolutely.
utilize that with your heart rate. So if you go, oh, my heart rate's responding a bit high, my perceived exertion's also high, but my pace feels like it should be right, then actually, no, I need to be slowing down a little bit to make sure that I'm in the correct zone. And exactly that, like, to be training for where you are now, not where you want to be. And over time, all three of those you'll find will align. And that's quite a magical place to be when you feel that fitness, when you
Yes.
can run on feel and not
Yes.
look at heart rate difference, right? I mean, that's the goal, that's the
That's
dream.
what we're all aiming at, isn't it? Yep. To get
Exactly.
everything aligned and feel good, feel fit.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great one, Carol. All right. Okay, cool. On to Rebecca. Rebecca asked, poor sleep. How do I recover from my sleep, from my runs? So she's obviously not sleeping well at night. She's still carrying on running. How does she recover, Shona? How does she get that
Yeah.
recovery in?
I mean, it's such a tough question. Rebecca, I'm assuming that well, I mean, maybe I shouldn't make this assumption, but very often females going through perimenopause will have disturbed sleep, right? So insomnia and night sweats and so on. And so, yeah, that is tough to, because from a recovery perspective, let's take a step back. The main aspects of recovery that we're looking for are sleep and nutrition, right? So we want to make sure that we're getting those two things right. And it's always tough when I tell females in this phase, oh, you must try and make sure that you're getting enough sleep, and they roll their eyes at me going, okay, sure, no, like, good luck with that. But there's a couple of, while we can't control what's happening hormonally within our bodies, HRT or menopause hormonal therapy has shown to really help with some of these menopause symptoms. So if you are a candidate for HRT or MHT, speak to your physician, because that can help with the insomnia and the night sweats, and so hopefully that is an aspect. But one of the other things I'd suggest then is try and control the things that you can control, right? So control your controllables. So within your bedroom, we call this good sleep hygiene. And so within your bedroom, ensuring that the room is nice and cool. The ideal temperature that we're looking at for this is between 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. I think that's around 64 degrees Fahrenheit. So you want to have a nice cool room. You want to ensure that there's no extra light coming in. So if you can have blackout curtains, that'd be great. If you can't, I highly recommend an eye mask of sorts to help you block out any light. And then really key, two last things that I want to say. There's one, try and stay away from any kind of light. So if you do have a television or an alarm clock or your cell phone next to you, just make sure that those little red lights or blue lights are covered. As much as our eyes are closed, it's a very thin membrane here, and the nerve will still, the optic nerve will still be picking that up. And so you want to make sure that there's no lights. And then, of course, and we know this, but we don't all practice it, is to try and stay off our devices at least an hour before bedtime. I went through a
That's
bad
a challenge, I think.
it
Yes.
is absolutely right. I mean, I went through a bad habit for a while of falling asleep reading Twitter. I mean, it's just
Oh, golly.
lying, reading Twitter. It's just really not good for sleep. But yeah, Nikki, I don't know your side of things. Do you
I
lie on
think
your bed reading Twitter to go to bed?
I'm not a Twitter fan or an X fan, but I think that's a really good point, is your initial point. I know with my friends, certainly as we headed into our late 40s and 50s, a lot of my friends have complained about poor quality sleep. And so getting some replacement therapy, hormone therapy, is actually a really good thing and can really help with your sleep and your rest and your recovery. Aside from all those things that Shona has chatted about there, getting to bed an hour earlier, all that sort of good stuff as well. But if that is all failing and just not working, then maybe a chat with your GP and just finding something that can help. I know with a lot of my friends, they were just like, oh, beside themselves and with tiredness.
Yes.
And then the hormones can just make a massive, all of a sudden they're sleeping fine again. Then you're not so tired the next day. Then you're managing life you're not eating as much. There's so many things that are good
Like
about that. So
knock-on effects. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. But start with the sleep hygiene first. And I think a lot of people just go to bed late. It's quite simply they go to bed late. So I don't know how you're doing with that, Rebecca. I don't know if you're just got too much on, but there's certainly several strategies that you can look at there, I think,
Nikki,
going
just want
forward.
to tap on that going to bed late. It's such a key point. Is
Yeah.
that within your sleep cycle, there's evidence to show that if you go to bed before 10, if you're asleep before 10 p.m., you get a natural benefit of some hormones that really help and aid recovery. So things like growth hormone, things like extra testosterone that help aid
Well,
recovery. And
who
yet
doesn't want
yeah, I
that?
know exactly. It's both of those are technically illegal substances, and we're getting
Yes.
it naturally by going to bed early. So ideally, if you can be in bed early and asleep by 10, it really does make a big difference. And Nikki, you had mentioned once before, was it about magnesium that perhaps could also aid sleep?
Yeah, so I think one of the nutrients or supplements certainly that people do advocate in this sort of age, well, in our sort of perimenopause, menopause stage, is some magnesium, and just taking that as a supplement can help. It's one of the key sort of supplements there. So we're not doctors and stuff, but that's certainly something that has been recommended over the time, so that can help with sleep. There's a few, I mean, there's quite a few when you dig down into it, and maybe we should do a deep dive session on this at some point because it's definitely a big subject. I think getting to bed early is, I think I see this quite a lot with my clients because as we go through the plans, I quite often have a couple of weeks where I really try and focus them in and hone them into going to bed an hour early.
Excellent.
And that's quite a challenge for them. They will do all the running that I put out for them for the week. But
Yes.
see if I ask them to go for 1 week to bed an hour earlier, that's hugely challenging for them. And if they're anything like me, I mean, I've got a teenage son who's upstairs and he's up till midnight and I'm trying to go to bed at 10 o'clock,
Oh my
so
gosh.
it is a bit of a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit there and stuff. So
No,
there you go,
excellent.
Rebecca. There's a few things there, and maybe we'll come back to that in a deep dive later on. All right. Okay. Next one. Let's go on to Jamie. Okay. So she wants to know how to manage weight. Oof, that's a big subject, right? Shona, take it away.
Yeah,
Crikey.
thanks, Nikki. Yeah, you can throw that one to me.
Yeah.
That's great. No, it's I mean, Jamie, it's I
Massive.
know that this is something that most females over the age of 40, perimenopause or not, are generally struggling with, and we could do an entire episode on the
We're
sociological
gonna.
as to why, but we are definitely looking to do a
Yes.
dive into how to manage your weight during this phase, and there's a couple of factors here that I think we just need to consider. I think the first thing and the big thing, Nikki, and you can back me up here, as what we see is that females who are training and struggling to manage their weight, the first thing that they do is they try to restrict their diets. They try to take elements of their
Absolutely.
diet
Yeah.
out. And the first thing that tends to go is carbohydrates, right? Because for years, carbs have been given this bad reputation, and
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and that's the reason. And in actual fact, by doing that, by removing or being restrictive, you're putting your body into a slight little states of stress, and cortisol will increase as well at that point in time, which then means that the body hangs on to its elements a little bit more. And more than that, then when you're running, you're not giving your body the fuel that it needs in order to function as well. So when we restrict our diets, what happens is our body also registers a lower basal metabolic rate because it goes, oh, this is what I need to survive. That's cool. I don't actually need that much. And then when we do eat more, then the body goes, oh, excellent. I'm going to hang on to that. So it's a little bit of a backwards topic, but try not to restrict and actually trying to fuel your runs a little bit more by eating a little bit more. I know it's backwards, but you will be able to manage your weight a little bit a little bit better than that. Yeah, there's a lot of things I want to say on this
Oh my
topic,
goodness,
but
there's so much, isn't there? I think
anything you want to add there
fueling,
before I
I
dive in?
think,
Mm,
yeah, I think fueling your runs is just, hitting the nail on the head there. Fueling your runs. Don't restrict around before your runs and after your runs. It's just not gonna help your running in any way or your weight management at all. And I think you hit the nail there. It's really tricky. I think we're all programmed as females to think about that topic all the time. And it's just, we always like to be a couple of pounds lighter, or we just, and we don't want to eat more. It just seems the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
But eating before you go out for your run in the morning, even yesterday, I had a friend message me and ask about it, and she doesn't eat till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And yeah, I was just like,
Yeah.
just eat something in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah,
Kick
and all
them
of yeah, I mean, all of these yeah, I don't really want to go into all the different
No.
diets. We'll dive into that in our deep dive, but maybe just something that I think that females don't think about when it comes to managing your weight is, and I know we carry on about strength training and building muscle mass here at Coach Perry and at the She Run Strong podcast, but absolutely. If you are increasing your lean muscle mass, what happens there is that your muscles utilize energy. So your basal metabolic rate goes up as well. And so you will be using more energy or calories. I don't really want to use that word, but you'll be utilizing more energy just because you have a higher lean muscle mass. And so that is also an excellent way to start managing your mass, not necessarily your weight, because obviously if you increase muscle, we do
Yeah.
tend to increase weight. But yeah, just that's I
So we
think
need to
something
strength
we
train then.
absolutely that is
Strength
something
train.
that is definitely going to help in this process.
So Jamie, you want to make sure that your strength training is on point as well as your running, and you're fueling your runs by the sounds of it there. Have I got that right? Yes.
Definitely. So yeah, have a look out for that deep dive episode that we do on this. It'll be
Coming out.
packed with information. Yeah. Sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Nick.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's cool. You've got it there. Right. Okay, good stuff,
Yeah.
Jamie. Right. Claire.
Yeah, Claire. Claire's got a question. Nikki, and I'm gonna you threw the weight one at me. I'm gonna throw this one back at you. So Claire is asking about warm-ups. I think we sometimes get a little bit lazier as we get older. And should you be doing a warm-up before your run? So let's not talk about strength at the moment. Should you be doing a warm-up before your easy and your long runs and your interval runs? If you want to recover from sessions faster, not feel tired all the time, run pain and injury free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join me in my upcoming training specifically for female runners over the age of 45. In it, I'll share with you my simple 5-step framework that'll transform your running. Simply scan the QR code on screen now or click on the link in the description to save your seats in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
My answer to that is always yes. And I'm a big fan. And in fact, I was thinking about this on my run today. I'd forgotten that we had this question, but I was thinking about it on my run and just how difficult it is to get adults or mature athletes to do a warm up. When we coach kids, we spend half an hour warming them up on track before they do anything fast at all. Yet for some reason, adults are very resistant, and yet we're tighter, and they just want to run. And so I think that's fine. If you're doing intervals, they'll do a bit of a warm up. Even then, they're woefully short. But if you're
Yeah.
doing easy runs and steady runs, and you're just going out the door, you get up, you get your run clothes on, you go out the door, and you just start running. You think, well, the first mile's my warm up. Well, yeah, okay. It can be if you're going to head off nice and slow or maybe do some brisk walking. But your body would really, really thank you if you did some mobility 5 minutes before, moved your joints through their range of motion, just loosened them off, did some leg swings, even some baby squats and baby lunges and things that just moved everything about a little bit, kind of got the synovial fluid in your joints moving. It would just pay dividends. You would just run a bit lighter and you would recover a bit faster. So yes. So basically, yes, you
Yeah.
want to do warm-ups for every kind of run, but they don't have to be massive. If you're doing intervals, I would say you want to be doing about 30 minutes. If you're going out the door to do an easy run in the morning, 5 minutes is enough. Just in your kitchen while you're waiting maybe for your coffee to brew or something, a few leg swings, some mobility, and then when you start your run, maybe some brisk walking and some very easy running to then find your pace. So that's what I like. Well, what about you, Shona? Do you like
No,
warm up?
I, I mean, it's certainly like them. I even remember when I was playing football or soccer when I was at school and varsity or college, and I hated the warm ups. I just wanted to play, and I think it's the
Oh,
same thing.
really?
We just kind of
I
want to get out.
quite like because it sort of primes your system, tells.
No, it's very good. You are right. It does prime your system and it gets mentally, but I don't know why I always hated them, but they are, so I'm not advocating that we don't do them. All my teaching and education has told me that we should, because like you say, it does prime everything. And as we get older, your point was so key there, Nikki, that I just want to reiterate is as we get older, we need this more, and
Way
very
more,
often,
way more.
yeah, way more than, kids who are nimble and agile and so on, so really, really absolutely key. And one of the things that we often hear is people go, oh, well, I don't always have time to get in my mobility sessions and all of these things. And this
Mhm.
is a perfect opportunity to then do 10 minutes of mobility before your run. So then by the end of the week, if you're running 4 times a week, you've done 40 minutes of mobility,
Yeah.
So it's also just a 2-for-1 kind of thing as well, that I think not only are you going to just generally benefit in your run, but overall it's just going to help your whole system, just really be
Yeah.
agile and
And
mobile.
just yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's just great. And the other reason is it stops the tightnesses that build up in your body that often cause the little aches and pains and the niggles. So if you're wanting to keep injuries at bay,
Yep,
do your warm-ups. I'm not
definitely.
saying they're going to cause all injuries, but they will certainly help quite a few injuries that we kinda
Just
get.
reduce, yeah, just reduce the risk of those injuries.
Definitely, definitely. So warm-ups are key. Okay, Claire, there you go. Right, let's go on to Kerry. Okay, this is a nice one. What's the best way to schedule my week if I'm running 4 times a week and doing strength? Oh, she's doing strength 2 to 3 times a week. You're going to like Kerry. So that's quite a lot, isn't it? So she's 4 runs a week, 2 to 3 strength sessions. So that's basically 7 sessions a week. So
Yeah.
that's quite a lot. Let's assume that Kerry's, shall we assume that she's working or not?
Yeah,
She
yeah,
didn't
perhaps
say in her
it's
sort of post,
saying,
but
yeah.
yeah, so that's quite a tricky one. So, right, Shona.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
So how
mean,
would you schedule that then?
this is always where everyone laughs at my maths, Nikki, because I'm saying, 4 times a week of running, and we advocate for 2 to 3 times strength. So Kerry is definitely on our platform and listening, which is awesome.
Mm,
But then that's 7 days a week, as you say, and we're massive advocates. Well, I know I am, anyways, in sort of
me
saying
too.
I really want you to have one
One
full
rest.
day of rest a week. So then, this is exactly where Kerry's going with this. Well, it's like, well, then how do I structure 8 things into a 7 day week? And so for the most part, let's just sort of play this out in a week. If you're running 4 times a week and doing strength 2 to 3 times, and that one extra rest day, that does tend to mean that you're going to have a day where you're doing a run and strength on the same day. Um, if you are doing that, first and foremost, just make sure that your recovery is good. If you're not recovering, then I would say let's drop that third strength session, right? So if you don't feel like you're recovering, just make sure that we're dropping that. But let's say you are recovering just fine. I would then sort of go on a weekly basis. I would say on Monday, we would do our lighter injury prevention type strength session, right? So it's not too heavy, because normally on a Tuesday we'd be doing our intervals as an example, and you don't want to be doing your heavy strength before your intervals. Then on a Wednesday you can do your heavier strength where we're lifting and we're really trying to build some lean muscle mass. And then on the Thursday, your easier run, not necessarily the longer run, but your easy run for the week. And then perhaps that third session is then taking place on that Thursday as well. Friday would then be your rest day. Saturday, Sunday, your long run and your either recovery run or another easy run. So yeah, if you are balancing that out, just really make sure that you have that one full rest day. Yeah, Nikki, how do you manage it with your clients?
So very similar. I like the structure of having intensity on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So that's what you had there balanced with your intensity, with your interval sessions and your strength, and then you have a nice rest day on Friday. I often ask my clients though, and I give them the option Friday or Monday, but those are the obvious ones. But then you're recovered, hopefully, for your endurance set at the weekend, and where a lot of people have more time. So I think the balance of that week sounds really nice. Just
Yeah,
the intensity at the middle, and also you have less time. So the shorter sessions are better in the week, and then
Yeah,
the longer sessions at the weekend. So
yeah, yeah.
very similar to you. So I think that's and what about would you so if you're doing the runs, you would do a session. So what would you do? Would you do the sessions back to back, the running and the strength together? What would you do for
I'm
that?
so glad you
You have
asked
to
that because yeah,
yeah,
that's I knew that would be a question that probably comes up. And so, ideally, in an ideal world, I would suggest that you do your one of the sessions in the morning and one of the sessions in the afternoon. That would be the ideal situation if you can afford that time. But I'm well aware that not everyone has that luxury of time, and so if you're doing them back to back, that is absolutely fine on condition that you're taking in some form of nutrition in between those two sessions. That is absolutely key because you can't go, let's say you do your run and then you come straight into your strength. You run for an hour, hour 10, hour 15, and then go straight into your strength with no nutritional fueling. You're really going to be depleting your body. And so it's really, really key that you take in some form of nutrition between those two sessions. And then when it comes down to, because Lindsay, our head coach at Coach Perry, he always has a debate with me about this. I personally, if I am doing them back to back, I like to run first and then go and do my strength. I just feel a little bit more primed and ready for it. Whereas Lindsay, he treats his strength session like his vegetables. He says it's his Brussels sprouts. So he'll eat his vegetables first, he'll do his strength, and then he rewards himself with a run afterwards, which I find quite fun as well. So as long as you're doing it and you're making sure that you're fueling that session in between, yeah, I don't mind which is which.
that's
And
interesting. I like that vegetables. Yeah, I prefer the run and then the strength afterwards. I quite often, if I do a strength session, especially on a Wednesday, I find it almost quite hard to run afterwards. So hats off to him. I think that's impressive. What about if someone is struggling to run and then they have to lump all their 4 runs together? Should they still do that, do you think? Or
no. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not a fan of more than like two consecutive, like back to back runs. So, like, if you're trying to do, depends obviously on the ability, but for the most part, like, wouldn't really have most of the females that we work with running like 3 days in a row and then trying to squeeze in like three strength sessions in a row. You know, we do want to have some of the variety within the week. Yeah, so ideally sort of spreading those runs and strength sessions out as much as you can.
yeah,
And maybe Nikki, just to reiterate here again, I think more isn't better here, right? So we always are advocates for strength, absolutely. But if you're not recovering, I would far rather you do one strength session consistently for 12 weeks as opposed to doing three strength sessions in 1 week and then being so broken and fatigued afterwards that you never do it again for another 2 weeks, you know? So yeah, I'd rather the consistency be there.
yeah, you got to find the balance.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think the final thing I would add to that as well is just make sure that your long run of the week is quite far away from your intensity workout as well. Just so you've got enough time to recover. And I sometimes see people popping those two together, and that's quite hard on the body to do an intensity and a long run back to back. So
Yeah,
try and keep those apart and make sure you have a rest day in between those so that
I
you go
agree.
into both fresh. So I think that's a good one. That's a good
Definitely.
question,
And
Kerry.
Tutu, who's also on our team at Coach Perry, he's a firm believer, and you know, we often refer to our interval sessions as quality sessions, which I
Yes,
hate that word because it makes us feel like they're more important. But he will often refer to the intervals and your long run as both
yeah.
quality sessions. They just
I
are so
I
good. They
agree. Yeah.
add extra load. So yeah, to keep those spaced apart is a definitely a good idea. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard session, a long run. Well, I personally find I know some people really love it, but I find a long run hard. And then that sounds nice to have a nice, easy sort of mobility strength session the next day. So that's
exactly.
good. Cool. Right. There we
Right.
go. Anything else to add to that one then?
No, all good. And that was a great question from Kerry. So yeah, thank you very
Good
much for
stuff.
those guys.
Excellent.
Yeah, Nikki, thank you for your input as always. Insightful and really, really appreciate your insights and your input and your expertise. So
Good to rattle through these. They're good questions this week. So
really, really
excellent.
good. Yeah,
All right
good.
then.
All
Good,
right.
good.
And yeah, anything else you want to say before we close off?
I think I'm good. I've got no roundups from that. I think we've covered those really nicely, and I'm looking forward to the next episode coming up.
All
Cool.
right. So we will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening and hope you got a ton of value from this.
Cheers, guys.